go for a walk with me. It's about, I don't know, maybe 6:30 right now. And today has been the first day I actually felt like getting up and walking. And in northeast Oklahoma where I live, it is very hot. Right now it's about 75 degrees, but typically it's been, 100s or more around lunchtime or so. So trying to get in a walk before it's hot. For the last few months, I haven't really felt like doing anything, so this is a big improvement if I feel like getting up and doing this. So, and the neighborhood's quiet and it's just me. Just thought I would kind of talk about some things this morning, let you get to know me a little bit. So, I'm a Texas girl, born and raised, but I live in Oklahoma now. And I think my thing with like the health journey probably all started. Well, it had started. I've done low carb many years ago, and that was probably 2012, 2013, and I'd lost about 80 pounds, and I was feeling pretty good. But then I started having gallbladder problems and all of that, and I stopped. And I didn't even have health insurance at the time, I don't think. And so I stopped and I quit having the issues. And then 2015, my dad died pretty suddenly. I mean, I kind of knew it was coming, but you never think that it's really going to happen, So he had a massive heart attack and passed away. And so that's when my weight and all of that really became evident to me, that I would have to make some big changes. Okay, so around that time I was probably the heaviest I've ever been in my life, and that was about 285. I gave birth to my daughter in 2007, so I did put on a lot of weight with my daughter, but that's not the culprit. And I've heard a lot of people say, how did you get so big? And that's kind of hurtful. I mean, it's my fault, but it is kind of a hurtful thing to hear, because when you're an emotional eater, you're not thinking about the pounds. You don't care. And I was an emotional eater, and the years that surrounded my dad's death, and even before it, I've pretty much always been an emotional eater, and I didn't know it was a problem. I didn't know it wasn't normal. Like being a kid, I can remember being like 12 years old, and there being bags of candy in the house, and I pretty much eat the whole bag of candy by myself. And of course I didn't think about it, didn't realize it was that big of a deal. But when you're a kid, you're burning so many calories and you're so active, it's not even a thought really. And I was pretty active as a kid. I mean, I was an overweight kid, but when I got into athletics, I slimmed down quite a bit. So I think, pretty much in high school, I was, and some people will think this is big, but this is small to me. I was about 150 pounds. And which I'm about 15 pounds above that right now, or close to that. I don't even know. But anyway, so I got up to my highest weight. I joined a gym and I started going to Zumba. and I was going like 3 times a week, but my food was still out of control. And I'm not blaming other people, but I didn't have the greatest support system at home. And honestly didn't know what healthy food was at that time. I didn't know what that meant. And so it was difficult. And then I would get frustrated, and it would be, I would lose a couple pounds, and then something would happen. I would eat bad, and then I'd gain back a couple of pounds plus some usually. So I never got more than like 10 or 15 pounds lower than, than that. So, and around that time I was going through a lot of fatigue, and I noticed that I was cold all the time, and I didn't understand what was happening. And I come from a long line of thyroid disorders, and so we got my thyroid checked, and it's one of those things where you go in the doctor and you look crazy, and the doctor's like, your labs are fine. Well, because my thyroid panel would always be in the pretty normal range, and this kept going on for like the next 2 years. And then I had an episode where I didn't have a period for like 3 or 4 months. And so I go to the doctor, and they run every lab you can think of. I actually ended up getting in with a nurse practitioner, and she ran a test called TPO. I cannot remember what the acronym stands for right at the moment. Peroxidase, I think it might be thyroid peroxidase. Anyways, that is the test that they run to check for the autoimmune disease Hashimoto's. And so it was positive. So from there I started seeing an endocrinologist, which basically meant labs, I think it was every 3 months or every 6 months, I can't remember. And he looked at T4, T3, TSH, and had me on levothyroxine, and started at 50 micrograms. I'm now at 100. And the numbers really haven't changed that much, just a little, but it's helped a lot of the symptoms. So, that being said, there is some research that says that if you have something like this, that it's more difficult for you to lose weight. And I believe that that's what it was. That's not all it was, though. So I'd had a few friends that had went and gotten gastric sleeve, and I thought maybe this was my only real chance, right? And so it's 2019. I'm trying to figure out how we can afford it. We're on a limited budget, by the way, and me and my husband at the time both work in a pipe plant, and the place is known for layoffs a lot. So anyway, very difficult time. But anyway, after many arguments and there are a lot of emotional things there, I finally go and have the surgery. So I think it was January 19th, if I remember right, in 2019. And the pre-op diet, I got down to 265 from 285. So I lost 20 pounds on that. And pre-op diet was basically, you could have one balanced meal a day, and the other 2 meals are protein shakes or a protein bar. And the point of that is to reduce the size of your liver to make surgery safer. So, did all that. I went through surgery, and the next 3 months, I was basically starving to death. And I looked like death. But it worked, and I lost the weight. In about 6 months, I lost 100 pounds. And then about a year later, my surgery weight was 265. I was down to 138 was my lowest. So, but just like GLP-1s, I lost muscle. And I didn't realize how much I had really lost at that time. I just knew I did have a lot of loose skin, even though I was doing a lot of Zumba. I was doing weightlifting classes, not like really heavy weights, just like, you know, like maybe 20 pounds or something. And but now during that time, it was like I'm living in a bag of milk, and I look small, but there's no muscle or anything. So, and my rear end hurt all the time. I had to change the position that I'm sitting in. It was a whole thing. So and during that time, my estradiol was through the roof. There's a long story to all of that, but basically I got my hormones checked, and it was through the roof, and the doctors are like, because you've lost so much weight, your body doesn't know what to do with all of this extra. It's still producing. And it's like, this is something they don't tell you, by the way. So, low estrogen will mess you up, but so will high estrogen. And I had a little bit of low testosterone at that time. So, so that goes back to kind of what I've talked about advocating for yourself and really learning about this stuff, because there's no one that knows your body like you. I'm not saying become a doctor, but do your own research too. So that all happened, and then the surgery was in 2019. 2021, my husband got laid off from our job. I got furloughed at one point. Life was a mess. And then we ended up going through a divorce in 2021. So it was a hard time for sure. But I did keep my weight down, but I didn't really build any muscle. But ended up taking a job out of state, and which it was good and bad. So a lot of things going on at that time. But then in 2023, I wasn't feeling good. I just was feeling tired all the time, and I assumed it was either hormones or Hashimoto, whatever. And I went to a clinic, and they said, well, maybe you need some testosterone. I was like, okay. So I got pellets, and it really, I felt pretty great. I started walking and doing all the things that I like to do, and I didn't realize it at the time, but I had labs done where my ferritin was a 2, and nobody said anything. They even marked my paperwork as iron deficient, and nobody said a word. And that's so wild to me, but it is what it is. And then so I didn't know anything about it. So that's 2023. And then 2024, we moved to Oklahoma to be near some of my husband's family. And I got a pretty, what I thought was a really good opportunity at work. And so I took that. We got here in September, and I found a mass like right away. I mean, we weren't here no time before I found it, and I was like, I think I need to get this checked. And it was in my ovaries, or next to my ovary, and I could press down on it and I could feel it spring back, and it felt like to me like I was pregnant. But I had had a tubal ligation 15 years before that or more. So go to the doctor, I get a CT, and then I get a ultrasound. It's called a vaginal ultrasound. So it's basically like a wand that goes up in there and looks around and sees what's what. And so they find the mass, and then they send me to a specialist. I go to the specialist, and she's like, this is probably cancer. And she starts crying in the doctor's appointment, and I am like, oh my God, I'm dying. And I'm like 42 at this time. And she doesn't want to touch it. She doesn't want, to deal with it because it's beyond her. So then they refer me to the cancer center in Oklahoma. I go there, and I can't remember. I think this was like a Wednesday. Maybe it was a Monday. I can't remember. But I end up having surgery the following week. And ended up having a full hysterectomy, including ovaries, tubes, the whole thing. There's nothing left. So nothing creating hormones anymore in that area. So, yeah. So that puts me straight into menopause. And I think I'm losing my mind. And I get on replacement. I go back and get pellets done. And, because my doctor's like, we don't do pellets. And I was like, well, that's, the most convenient option for me. Going there once every 3 months, all good, right? Well, and I was on those pellets for about a year with that clinic. And then I was having some side effects or some symptoms. And so I think maybe it's the pellets. And I started another job. So I go to the company doctor, and they do some blood work. And my testosterone is like 334. And that is why I was having the symptoms I was having. And so which included my voice had gotten hoarse and had lowered a little bit. I got hair growth that I'm not happy about, and a couple of other things we won't go into. But anyways, so my last pellets was in March. I see this doctor in May. She runs all kinds of labs. We figured that out, and we're like, well, I just won't get on any more testosterone for right now, because we want it to come down. Because, there's not much you can do about it. Once the pellet is in, it is in. So, So now it is July, and I'm waiting on my testosterone lab to come back, and it's gone from 335 to 215 to 190, I think was the last one I saw, and then this lab will be the most recent. But in the meantime, I haven't had any estrogen since whatever 3 months was before March, because the lady that was doing my pellets is like, your estrogen's still good, so I'm not going to give you any more. Like, okay. Well, what I didn't know was testosterone can convert into estrogen. Like, all the things you don't know. But anyway, so that kind of brings us up to date. And the labs that was in May showed my ferritin to be an 8, and which explained a lot of my fatigue and my exercise intolerance and just, you know, feeling unwell, basically. And so and then you pair that with the hormone issues, and it is like a whole shit show, basically. Best way I can say it. But anyhow, so that's where we are at currently, and really learned to advocate for myself. And this video has gone a lot longer than I intended it to, but I kind of wanted whoever's watching to have an idea of who they're watching and where I come from and what's going on in my life. So yeah, so if any of this resonated with you, would you please give me a like and a subscribe, and share some of your story in the comments with me, and let me know if you've got any of the same things I got going on. So it's Wednesday. Have a great day.